So this year has been an amazing year for reading. I read something like 115 books that are new to me, and then like 40 rereads and nonfiction. And this is a tier ranking for 2025. This is books that are not rereads and they're fiction. I have them in chronological order when I read them in this tier list. This tier list is going to be a little top heavy, and by a little I mean a lot. This is one of the best years of reading I have ever had. I didn't realize when I started the Lois McMaster Bujold project that everything would be S tier and A tier, give or take, and that the Vorkosigan saga would be one of the best science fiction series I have ever read. So as we go through this, understand it will be a little top heavy. My criteria is kind of how I'm feeling about the books after all this time. Yeah, there might be a little recency bias, but I don't think so because I read so many heavy hitters at the beginning of the year that are still super crisp in my memory. Let's just get into this tier ranking. One of the other things I'll be comparing is the books against the other books on the list. In some situations, that's not fair. I mean, comparing like your random pulpy men's adventure fiction digger novel to Startide Rising isn't really fair. Like Startide Rising won Science Fiction Triple Crown and the world building is incredible, which we'll get to that when I get to the book. But yeah, it's not fair. I still think that they could share a space relatively close to one another just because they're great reads for very different reasons. Anyways, yeah, that's kind of my criteria going into it. Let's just get right into this, and we will start with The Scarlet Ruse by John D. MacDonald, which is like book 14 or 13 in the Travis McGee series. That is an S tier. The Scarlet Ruse is about Travis McGee looking for some stolen postage stamps because this stamp collector got quite a bit of his stamps stolen, and they are incredibly valuable. Now, some of the books building up to this one and some of the books after are gut-wrenching, and the stakes are so high. And for John D. MacDonald to just throw in this one about, hey, McGee's going to go find some stamps. It's going to be nice and chill. We're going to have a good time, some great characters. You get a little time with Meyer, and I'm like, I'm sold, man. This is what I need right now. The emotional roller coaster of the last few books before this one. I just love that he could just hit the brakes and tell you a very fun story. And as we get into the ones that later on really ramp things up again. I just realized I didn't mention how the tier rankings work, which if you've never watched a tier ranking video, I don't know why you picked mine to start with, but we've got S at the top. It is the best of the best. And then A, B, C, and D is like DNF-ish. It's almost that I regret reading it, or I would have been much happier to read something else instead. Not a lot of these are going to be in DNF, but there will be some, and one of those is A Spectre is Haunting Texas. Now, I'm glad I read it, but the book falls apart in the last third, and it is insane. It is Fritz Leiber roasting everyone. He is punching up, he is punching down. It is about how important Texas politics were to the United States in the 1960s, and I don't know, if you really want to watch something interesting about it, I was on an episode of Ebes. I'll link it in the description, or you can just go find it. It's got me on there. I'm wearing a cowboy hat. It's real awesome. We had a very long discussion about this book. The book's not very good, but does have some very fascinating moments. Fritz Leiber basically just cooked the whole time, and I don't know why Frederick Pohl, who I think was the editor at the time, let him. It's just all about making fun of Texas and Texans and other parts of the United States in the late 60s, and the main character is Fritz Leiber. The dude is like a Shakespearean actor from space. He's super tall. He's like a skeleton because he's spent his entire life in zero G, so he has no muscle mass except in his like forearms and hands. It's almost dumb. I don't know. It's going to DNF. I don't think anyone should really read that book. Next is Penric's Demon, the start of my Lois McMaster Bujold journey during 2025. I'd read Shards of Honor before this and liked it, and that was one of the inspirations for making this my project for 2025. And Penric's Demon is A tier. I think there are other ones that are better, Penric and the Shaman being one of them. I'm just going to work through these three a little quickly. Penric's Fox is also A tier. Like the premise of the Penric and Desdemona series, which takes place in the world of the Five Gods, where Curse of Chalion, Paladin of Souls, and the Hallowed Hunt take place. This is Lois McMaster Bujold's fantasy world that won like a Hugo, I think, for best like world building or something. She's also won one for science fiction. It is about Penric, and his journey in life after he has a demon enter his body. Now, in the world of the five gods, there are demons that come from the bastard, who is the god of like chaos and off chances. And these demons can ascend and take over a living thing, but they tend to have a symbiotic relationship with the human that they've possessed. From the very beginning, you see how wonderful of a person Penric is. He immediately, I guess the best way to put it is, humanizes the demon. Until then, she didn't have a name. He gave her a name, named her Desdemona, because she is a entity that has developed a personhood because of all the women she has possessed throughout time. And these people that are possessed are usually priests of the Bastard's Order. It's just so good. It's so good from the very beginning. Like, it's such a fun time. These are the perfect palate cleansers. Just listen to one because Grover Gardner is one of the best narrators ever. I love him so much. And just listen to them between books, or read them between like big chunky books. As multiple people have now said in different book groups I'm in, her writing is delightful. She writes very heavy topics with such grace that you just enjoy it even when it's gut-wrenching. And I just don't have enough nice things to say about the Penric and Desdemona series. I know a lot of people don't think it's some of her best work, but I think it's her best World of the Five Gods work. And let's keep moving on. The Turquoise Lament by John D. MacDonald is McGee book 15, and it is kind of forgetful. I'm going to put it in B tier. Like, I don't know if I gave it 4 stars or 5 stars. It's interesting. It is about one of McGee's friends showing up. Her name is Pidge, and she's like, I think my husband is trying to kill me. He wants my inheritance or something. I don't know what's going on. And a lot of the book takes place in Hawaii. There's some scenes from it that really stick in my mind, but for the most part, it's not among the best McGee books, but it's still way better than like a C tier novel. Masquerade in Lodi is going to go in C tier. It would be a DNF tier, but it's a Penric and Desdemona novella, and I really love Penric and Desdemona. Even the bad stories are still good enough, and this is definitely the first one that I listened to and I was like, I don't know, this isn't very good, man. What about the first 3? Because Penric and the Shaman is one of my favorites in the series. I forgot to talk about it, so let's double back. It is the first time you get Detective Penric is on the case. There's a lot of the stories in the series that are Penric solving some mystery or a murder or something, and Penric and the Shaman is Penric searching for a shaman who may have killed his best friend, and he's working with an actual like cop in this World of the Five Gods. He is part of the Father's Order, and they are the ones responsible for, I guess, policing and investigating crimes and stuff. And Penric's Fox is a murder mystery. It's very good too. I really think Penric and the Shaman shines just because of how good Bujold is with her characters and humanizing these people who more often than not you would just kind of ignore because they're like a bad guy. And, you know, most people don't elaborate on bad guys in the same way that Bujold does in her stories. Okay, now we can go back to Masquerade in Lodi and say, yeah, it's okay. That's why it's in C tier. It's one of the weakest Bujold books that I have read. I guess that's it. The Dreadful Lemon Sky, I'm going to put in B tier. I think it's better than the Turquoise Lament, but I got to save some space in S and A tier. And the Dreadful Lemon Sky is a very good McGee novel. It is what inspired me to read the series. I read the premise for it. I just grabbed a collection of McGee novels. It's like a random collection of 5 of them. I don't know why, but like I think Avenel Books got the right to publish these 5 in one of those cool chunky omnibus. It's very interesting. So one of McGee's old friends, which this sounds a lot like Turquoise Lament, she shows up and she's like, hey, I can't talk to you about it right now, but I need you to hold on to this bag. This has $10,000 in it. Don't ask me about it. I will fill you in later, but I need it hidden somewhere where the people that are following me can't find it. I don't want them to know where it is, but I'll be back in a week to get it. And then she doesn't come back. And this becomes like first McGee's like, well, okay, she told me who to give it to if she didn't survive, but I need to know what happened to her. And I know that the person I've got to give this to will want to know what happened to her. And it's very Reacher-esque in the way the story takes place, which makes sense because Travis McGee was a big influence on Lee Child for the Jack Reacher series. Just like Reacher, McGee cannot let things go. He has to know. He has to find out. So many books in this series are just McGee almost destroying himself to find out what happened or to make something right. So the book is good, but not as good as some of the other ones on this list. The Empty Copper Sea, I'm going to put in C tier because when I look at any other McGee novel, I can just look at the cover, read the title, and I remember pretty much everything that happened in that book. There's a few things I miss. I'm rereading the series right now, and man, they're just as good the second time, if not better. But the Empty Copper Sea might as well be called the Empty Copper Brain because I didn't remember anything about it. I checked out the synopsis just now just to see what it was about. It's all right. Maybe I will appreciate it more the second time I read it. That just happened with one of the McGee novels that I thought was kind of mid. It's now one of my favorites. So that was super interesting. But yeah, not much to say about the Empty Copper Sea. McGee is investigating the death of a man who fell overboard on his boat, and the guy who was running the ship at the time basically comes to McGee and is like, you've got to help me salvage my reputation. I am not responsible for what happened. There's something weird going on. And he's like, this is all the money I can muster. It's my life savings. And, you know, I think that it's worth my livelihood to pay you to do this. And, you know, it's okay. Actually, I'm moving Masquerade and Lodi to D. Like, I don't regret reading it, but man, the Empty Copper Sea is way better. So maybe I'll rank these. Maybe I'll sort these as we're going. I don't know yet. Next is Startide Rising. We're going to go ahead and throw that right into S tier because Startide Rising by David Brin is some S tier science fiction. Holy crap. It won the Triple Crown. It won like the Hugo, the Nebula, and like the whatever third award it won. I can't remember. It was either the Locust or whatever it is. I can't remember. Anyways, it's won a lot of awards. It is very good. It is about humans who have uplifted dolphins and chimps, and there's a handful of humans on a dolphin-ran spaceship, and they are getting chased by these other alien races, and these other alien races have also uplifted different species into sapiens. And the interesting thing about it is this universe feels old, feels very old. Some of these alien civilizations are, I don't know, 50,000 years old or older. And the reason they are chasing the humans is because there's a good chance that the humans and the dolphins and the single chimp on their ship, who is a grouch, he is awesome. Bro seems like he's like a little bit on the spectrum. And it's kind of funny. It's like, come on, man, read the room. But he is a trip. But that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the fact that they're on the run because they may have found the progenitor race of all of these uplifted races and found their weapons cache, their ships that have been sitting around for hundreds of thousands of years, but there's still a lot of technology there, and whoever controls them, there's a very good chance they're going to control the universe. And they crash on this planet that is 90% ocean, and they're hiding in their ship at the bottom of the ocean, trying to figure out a way to escape. And as this is happening, there's this subplot going on the ship. There's like a almost mutiny, like things are real sus, and then you get all of this world building that is just thrown at you. I've described it before as like, you've got Dune on one side and you've got Malazan on the other, and Startide Rising is like between those two when it comes to the amount of world building that's thrown at you. The book is very well written. You need to have a little card that tells you what each character does, and I shared it in a previous video where I talk about Startide Rising, so you'll have to go back and find that. But it's a great little thing. It's got like, unfortunately, there are little AI images of each character, but their name and kind of what their role is on the ship and stuff like that. And that helped me keep track of everything. I guess there might be a character list in the book. I don't know. I did audio. And after that, we've got The Green Ripper, probably my favorite McGee novel because it is nothing like the rest of the McGee novels. This book is devastating from the very beginning, and McGee is out to avenge the death of someone, and he is willing to do anything up to infiltrating a cult. This has one of the most raw depictions of PTSD I've ever read. The book is incredible. It's very polarizing in the McGee enjoyers community because he's not solving a mystery. He's out for blood, and it just has a completely different tone than all the other McGee novels. And I actually like that because it's like a bit of a breather before what ends up being the end of the series about 3 books after this. It's fantastic. Reading all of the books up to that one is worth it just to experience that one. Next, we've got The Warhound and the World's Pain by Michael Moorcock. I'm going to put that in B tier. It is a good book. It is about a German military officer during the 30 Years' War, and bro's a war criminal, makes a deal with the devil, to cure the world's pain. He has to find the Holy Grail to do it. And it's trippy. I mean, it's Moorcock. What do you expect? I think that it's very good. It has to have been a huge influence on Warhammer Fantasy because, bro, it reads like we're journeying through the Empire of Man in the Warhammer Fantasy setting. It's very good, but like I said, I think everything above it I just enjoy more. Now, when I said the Scarlet Ruse was like lighthearted McGee, and then the others were just kind of run of the mill, then we've got the Green Ripper that's super intense and not a McGee novel. Next we have Freefall and Crimson, which is dark. Probably one of the darkest books in the series, which is saying something. This one's messed up. I actually am not going to put it in S tier. I'm going to put it in A tier because I think the bad guy is a little cartoony, but one of the things that I've noticed that John D. McDonald struggles with is endings that aren't kind of by rote. So a lot of the time his endings are just like A and B, C, and then of course then we get D, and then everything gets wrapped up. Now after everything gets wrapped up, he has these epilogues that are just always beautifully written. It's about healing, it's about catharsis, and I really enjoy those. But yeah, they make up for the kind of endings. And this one, the ending is very good. Freefall and Crimson is just crazy. You meet a lot of characters from previous books in this one. And one of the things that I like about the Travis McGee series is he got older in each book. Each book takes place about the time that it was published. And so McGee is in his like late 40s by Freefall and Crimson. And you can tell like stuff started to catch up to him. He's still fast, but man, you can see that Florida itself has changed in the way Florida did in real life, and I really liked that. And after that, I went straight to another McGee novel. I'm going to put it in C tier as well. Cinnamon Skin. It kind of recycled a lot of stuff from previous McGee novels, especially the one I just finished that for some reason I can't remember the name of, even though I just reread it. It takes place in Mexico. About half of it takes place in Mexico. It just kind of feels like he took a bad guy from one of the earlier books and then took a confrontation from one of the middle books and then put them together as the like climax of the novel. I don't think it worked very well. I still love it. I think that there's not a McGee novel below 4 stars, but if we're ranking it against all this other stuff, yeah, it's gonna go lower down. I'm gonna jump around real quick because these 3 novellas should be read together, and that is Penric's Mission, Mira's Last Dance, and The Prisoner of Lemnos. Now, Penric's Mission and Mira's Last Dance go in S tier. The Prisoner of Lemnos is almost as good, but I think Mira's Last Dance is one of the best in the however many Penric and Desdemona novellas there are. I don't know, it's like 17 or something. Who knows? Who's counting? Why count among friends when it comes to amazing books? All 3 of them are one cohesive story. Most of the Penric and Desdemona stuff do not take place back to back to back. There's like time jumps and stuff. And I think that these should be read all together. Just read them all at the same time. I skipped around. I read Mira's Last Dance and Prisoner of Lemnos back to back, but all 3 should be read that way. And it is about Penric leaving where he's been for a while, and he is infiltrating this place that's very Byzantine Empire-ish. There's a lot of duplicity at the top where people are getting betrayed and killed. The generals, if they get too successful, they're like, ooh, we're going to have to exile you because now you're a threat to my power base. And so that's kind of what ends up happening in the subplot of Penric's Mission. Penric immediately gets captured. It's like the very first thing that happens when he steps off the boat. He gets brained, his skull gets fractured, and Desdemona barely keeps him alive. It's really interesting because you start seeing Penric really get into the height of his powers as a sorcerer in this book, and I really like it. I think that these 3 books are where you see Penric and Desdemona become like a single thing. There's a thing in this series where they talk about demons ascending, and that's where they take over a person and the human has lost control. I think I'll expand on that like in my dedicated Bujold video, but I think Desdemona's ascended. I think that she has ascended and then relinquished control because of the trust she has in Penric. And how do you manage to get a demon to trust you? Oh yeah, by treating them like a person, because I think a major part of this series is personhood and kind of what that means. Like, how do you define personhood? It's just beautiful. The books are absolutely beautiful. Speaking of things that are beautiful, the final book in the McGee series, The Lonely Silver Rain. I don't know if this was supposed to be the last book. McDonald passed away around the time this came out or shortly after. It feels like an ending though. I've talked about it before. Some books end in a way that feels like a beginning. That happened with Wind and Truth. A lot of people hated that. I really like The Lonely Silver Rain because of the way it ends. It feels not so much like a reboot of the series, but as like a beautiful moment where McGee kind of gets his life changed in some really interesting ways. And I just adore that book. It's so beautiful. I pretty much cried the whole time, mostly because I knew it was the last one. And then holy crap, you just get hit with the sledgehammer of feels in that thing. Very good. When the Lion Feeds is a tough one. I think I would put it in S tier, but I'm gonna put it in A tier because it's not as heavy of an impact as the books above it, but it's still very, very good. When the Lion Feeds is historical fiction. It mostly follows Sean Courtney and the Courtney brothers in South Africa. And Sean basically gets ran out when he's young. It follows Sean, and his goal is to get rich or die trying, and just the things he does, like he digs for gold, he's out trapping animals, just everything. The thing about this book is it is Wilbur Smith's love letter to Africa, the continent. He just has beautiful writing that immerses you in the African countryside in a way that you get in things like Lonesome Dove when it comes to Texas and then their journey north. It's just so great to be in that world. I think it has kind of a few flaws, but they're more of things where I'm just like, yeah, I don't really care too much about this. All right, so in the C tier, I'm going to put The Brass Cupcake because I enjoyed reading it. It's John D. MacDonald's first novel, but it's also just okay. I think that it has like an ending and then it's like, hey, but then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. And I'm just like, okay. It takes place in Florida, like a lot of MacDonald books. It is about a guy who used to be a cop. He essentially got fired for not being dirty. And this small Florida town that relies heavily on tourism is having a problem because the richest person staying there over the summer died and her jewelry is missing. The main character works for the insurance company that insured the jewelry. And so his job is to try and get it back for less than they would have to pay out if a insurance claim is made on the jewelry. But he also has to avoid the cops because the cops don't want anyone interfering with this case because they need to be seen as the heroes to show that the town is still safe. So these rich people will keep visiting them in the summer. It's very interesting. I just don't think that it elevates much beyond the pulps he was writing at the time. And now that I've read them, it's like, yeah, they're pretty generic, but overall it's still a very readable book. It's also super short. Next we have The Doomed Oasis by Hammond Innes. That's going in DNF. I bought this book based on the cover alone. It is awesome. It is like some desert town in Saudi Arabia. Beyond a bit of the Saudi Arabian vibes, the story is just boring. I don't like the structure of the story because it's all flashbacks. You're following a lawyer and he is essentially giving his testimony at a trial that they keep kind of mysterious until the very end. And then they're like, oh, look, surprise, it was about this guy. And look, he's innocent. And you just don't care. The story's just okay. It's about this kid who is looking for his father. And he knows that his father is doing some Lawrence of Arabia crap where he's helping, I don't know, the Saudis find oil or something. And the story starts in Wales, of all places. And yeah, the lawyer like helps the kid escape. And you're following his journey after that. It's okay. And then it snaps back to the lawyer and the lawyer's doing whatever. I don't really care. It's not worth it. I have heard that Hammond Innes has good stuff, but this is not it. Next, we have The Orphans of Raspe. That's going to go in S tier purely out of my enjoyment for it. The book is great. It's as you would expect from Bujold. The writing is impeccable, and this one has some beautiful moments in it. Looking at this Subterranean Press cover gets my eyes a little watery. I love it. I know exactly what this scene is, and you have these like lows of Penrick trying to help these children, and she still manages to fit in her wonderful humor. I'm realizing that the S tier is already heavy, and like more than half of Vorkosigan's going to go in S tier, so I'm in danger. Next we have The Leopard by Thomas D. Lampedusa. I guess is his name, or Tomasi di Lampedusa. It is a novel that takes place during the unification of Italy in the 1800s. It's fine. It's not for me. It is a very litfic book that a lot of people I know would adore, especially anyone that is an enjoyer of literary fiction and historical fiction. Boy, do I have a book for you. But it was not for me. I put it in C tier because I can appreciate how well it is written and I understand what the author is trying to do with it. I think it's just not a book for me. Next, we have The Physicians of Vilna, aka the Penrick and Desdemona Do COVID novel. I think that it was published in 2020 and it has to do with a pandemic killing a lot of people. Boy, does it hurt to read because Penrick is trained as a doctor, but he is not a doctor. The reason he is not a doctor is because it absolutely destroys him to treat people, not because he can't do it, he just can't handle the losses. And the thing is he is a sorcerer, and the sorcerers are the best at healing. So only the bad cases come to him, which means that while he does have a much better success rate for impossible causes, he still loses a lot of people. And when he was training to become a physician, it almost killed him. So to watch him step up in a situation that he knows might destroy him, it's beautiful. It's so good. I'm not putting it in S tier because I don't know. Maybe it should be an S tier, but I'm going to leave it in A tier for now. And let's move on to a DNF tier, The Sleeping Dragon. And I'm going to put The Sword in the Chain there as well. These are by Joel Rosenberg. This is the first lit RPG series. Now, technically, there is a lit RPG series that started earlier than this one, but that was Andre Norton's Quag Keep series. But the thing is she wrote Quag Keep in like 1978 or something, and then there wasn't another one published in that series until early 2000s. But this entire Joel Rosenberg series was published in like the 80s and early 90s. So I view this as the first lit RPG series because it was published with the intent of it being a series, unlike Quag Keep. And with all that out of the way, it's not good. I really like the way mechanics and the classes and stuff are applied in the book. I think The Sleeping Dragon could have been very good. It is very earnest, but also cringy. It has a scene with some dudes assaulting the two female characters in the adventuring party, and it is gross and used as a plot point in a way that feels exploitative, and I don't like it at all. And what sucks is that happens, and then the very next scene is one of the most heartfelt and touching scenes in a book I've ever read. It is about a man with a disability facing the pain that has caused him, and he uses it to find strength to push himself to save those women. And wow, is it beautiful. It just sucks that the build up to it was like the worst trope in fantasy, and the ending was like just enough to keep me going. It's the characters come back to the real world and they've changed. Like they don't mess around, and they have to go back. They do. Then we get The Sword in the Chain, and The Sword in the Chain is just, I don't know, baby's first like sim builder or something. A lot of it has to do with them going back out into the world because their little community needs supplies. And then the major overarching story is them attempting to destroy chattel slavery in this world, which is a noble thing, and I can appreciate it, but I just don't think the execution is there. We're going to be here all day. Holy crap. House on the Borderland. A tier. I think that it has a few moments where I'm just like, hey, but I really like William Hope Hodgson. House on the Borderland is the bridge that connects gothic horror and cosmic horror. This is like before Lovecraft, but after like Poe and Chambers and stuff like that. It's good. If you want to read it, I suggest you get like volume 1 or 2 or whatever it is in the Nightshade Books William Hope Hodgson collection, because that includes the Ghost Finder Carnacki stories, and they are very good as well. This is a foundation of the horror genre for a very good reason. It's a short book. I think anyone interested in reading stuff from that era needs to read this. I would suggest this before Lovecraft, mostly because I don't like Lovecraft, but Hodgson is also just a better writer. A Memory Called Empire. I'm going to put this in B tier. I don't think the series is for me, or the duology or whatever. I really like the world building. I think that there's a lot of stuff going on in it that is great, but by the end of the story, I was like, I'm glad I read that, but I'm not interested in reading the sequel. It is about a like diplomat to this empire, and she has a secret technology that the Empire does not know about, and it is the memories of her predecessor in her mind. It's almost like a imprint of that person's soul. It's really fascinating, and the thing is it's an old copy because her predecessor was killed, and now she is trying to do the diplomat things while also trying to figure out why her predecessor was killed. All right, next we got Mark Greaney's Midnight Black. That is going to go in A tier. I think it's a very good Gray Man novel. Not one of the best. It takes place in Russia, like current times. It is about him trying to break someone out of prison, and he is playing no games. The Gray Man has no chill in this book. There's like a chase scene, and he hops onto a subway train, and some big tough dude tries to step in his way, and he just shoots that dude right in the leg. Does not care. I think it's a very good Gray Man book. I like that it flips to another recurring character's POV, and he does a really good job with it. That's why it's an A tier. but compared to this other S tier stuff, like, I don't think it's as good. All right, we have now come to the first serious binge of the year, and that was the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm assuming you all know about Dungeon Crawler Carl by now. I have an entire video about how the series broke my brain. I read all 7 of them in like 3 weeks. I will be doing it again this year in 2026 before the next book comes out because I love this series. I love this series. I think Dungeon Crawler Carl, compared to the rest of the books in the series, is probably a B, but it's a very strong B. Carl's Doomsday Scenario is also a B. Right now I'm kind of comparing the series to itself. I loved Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook. That'll go an A. I know a lot of people were like, wait, I didn't like it. There's too many trains. Love the trains. Love the Mantar. I had a great time with that one. Gate of the Feral Gods is also going to go an A. I think Gate of the Feral Gods is the first glimpse at what we're going to get for the rest of the series. It's where stuff starts getting real, and there's like a legit increase in power level. I think Butcher's Masquerade is my favorite in the series so far. It is where Carl and the other crawlers get back some of their autonomy, like what little they can, and you can really see behind the curtain in that one in an interesting way. Eye of the Bedlam Bride is a fantastic. I don't like it as much as Butcher's Masquerade, but man, when I look at that cover and see Uzi Jesus and Geraldo the Monk Seal, that book is so good. It has a scene where Carl loses the ability to control his body, and it made me sick to my stomach. The loss of autonomy is terrifying, and Matt Dinniman did a wonderful job in that one of doing that. And then we have This Inevitable Ruin, which just takes everything from the previous books and turns it to 11. I don't know how he keeps finding an additional like 11 on the volume knob, but it works. This Inevitable Ruin is great. Anyone that hasn't read Dungeon Crawler Carl should try it. I think that there's a lot of haters out there of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and I don't know why. I think a lot of people dismiss it after the first book because they're not paying attention. From the very first book, he's telegraphing kind of what is going to be going on in this series. He gets a little more transparent with it as the series moves on, but it's there. And I think a lot of people just can't see past like the new achievement and stuff like that, which I love, but I can understand how it can get grating. So if you're listening to it and the new achievement stuff bothers you, maybe switch to physical and just, I don't know, skip them. I look forward to them because sometimes they hint at what's going to be happening later in the series. So Dungeon Crawler Carl, man, that's a S tier series, even though I only put 3 of the books in S tier. The Assassins of Thassalon is C tier. No, we'll put it in B. It is the only Penric and Desdemona novel. It is long enough to be considered one, and it's not bad. I think that it does suffer from some pacing issues if you're used to the other Penric and Desdemona books. This one is about a woman who is given a demon solely to use it to kill someone else, and she loses that demon. This is Penric helping her because that's what Penric does, and it's beautiful. Every time I get a new Penric novel or novella that takes place with him getting a little older and I see his life that he has built, I start crying. It's just wonderful. Next, we've got The Moving Target by Ross McDonald. It's B tier. It's very good. It is the first in his Blue Archer series. And what's really funny is when it was first published, they used his other name. And so it was a detective noir book written by a John McDonald, and it was literally the same year that The Brass Cupcake came out, I think like 1949. There was a little kerfuffle about that. They talk about it in John D. McDonald's biography, The Red Hot Typewriter. Long story short, he started going by Ross McDonald. Boy, is he a skilled writer with the last name of McDonald. I need to read more of his stuff before I compare him directly to John D. McDonald, but if we were looking at just debut novels, The Moving Target crushes The Brass Cupcake. I mean, destroys it. The Moving Target is very good. Maybe it should be an A tier, but I think I've got other noir novels on here that are going to go above it, and I think that's what bumps it down. Had to get me a drink. Ooh, blowing my throat out. So next up, we've got Knot of Shadows by Lois McMaster Bujold. This can go in C tier because I cannot remember anything about it. Let's look it up real quick. Oh yeah, this one's not bad. It has some very beautiful scenes. It's better than Masquerade and Lodi, but it is almost the exact same plot as Masquerade and Lodi. So yeah, we'll put it in C tier, and I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it much. Next, we've got The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. That's S tier. That's one of my favorite books of the entire year. It is my favorite Joe Abercrombie novel. I don't know what you should do with that. My previous favorite was The Heroes. So The Devils is great. We've got this alternate history Europe with fantasy elements, and this is the Suicide Squad. We have a dude who was cursed by a witch and he can't die. We have a stereotypical rogue woman, a werewolf, a necromancer, and a vampire. And it's super freaking cool. I can't get over how much fun I had reading that book. It is Joe Abercrombie's blockbuster novel, is the best way to put it. It feels more like a blockbuster movie than it does, I don't know, all of his previous works that I've read that are much more literary fiction nerd than they are blockbuster. I mean, if you read fantasy, then you should read The Devils. It's very, very good. All right, S tier is getting very heavy, but I got to put Bariyar up there because it's one of the best books in the Vorkosigan saga. Shards of Honor follows Cordelia Naismith and her meeting Errol Vorkosigan. You know, they end up having Miles Vorkosigan, the main character in the series. Well, Bariyar is about that pregnancy and about Cordelia learning to live on the planet of Bariyar. It is not easy, especially for someone from Beta Colony. And there's this huge culture clash. She just feels out of place. And it is her getting like a toehold in this society and asserting herself. And boy, does it cause some ripples further down in this Vorkosigan timeline. You get later in the series and you're like, holy crap, Cordelia's the GOAT. And she really is. I think she's one of the best characters in the entire series. A lot of people say you can start with The Warrior's Apprentice and skip Shards of Honor and Bariyar. I don't agree. I think a lot of the emotional impact in The Warrior's Apprentice is lost by skipping them. So I don't know. Do with that as you will. They are very different when it comes to the style of the storytelling, but you got to read those first. I think a third of my list is Lois McMaster Bujold, so sorry I didn't warn you beforehand. Hey, look, Demon Daughter. I'm going to put that in S tier. This book had me weepy essentially the entire time. It is about a little girl who is possessed by a demon, and she doesn't know what's going on. She ends up somewhere she doesn't speak the language, and Henrik is trying to help her. It touches on everything Bujold does well. Found family, trusting in others, just all of the, I don't know, emotional roller coasters that she's good at designing are in that story. It's beautiful. I'm probably going to quit yapping about the Bujold stuff as much because I need to make a video dedicated to her and my throat is going to blow out. Done and Dusted. It's getting a B tier because I had a lot of fun with it. Lila Sage is a very good romance writer. Boy, is that book spicy, but it's spicy in a way that's like real life. I liked that aspect of it. I probably would have ranked the book lower. My wife liked it, but didn't like it as much as me. But I really want to know what happens in the rest of this. I am not the biggest fan of the person who ends up becoming like the significant other of the main character, just because he's very possessive in a really weird way, you know, in a like red flag way. So I'm actually going to move it to C. I'm going to read more of them, but I read this, I don't know, 9 months ago, and I haven't read the rest of them, even though they're short, easy reads. So that shows how invested I am in the series. So yeah, we'll put it in C tier. And next we got The Wrecking Crew. I'm going to put that in D and F. It is the second Matt Helm novel by Donald Hamilton. It is his like spy thriller series that was started in the early 50s. The first book is fantastic. The second book is not. It's the opposite of that. Matt Helm is pulled out of retirement and he ends up in Finland because he speaks a little Finnish. And it's essentially dropping the stereotypical American into Europe, where he just complains about Europe being Europe, and he's kind of cringe and a crybaby and thinks women should dye their hair weird colors and they need to be wearing makeup and looking nice in their skirts. God forbid a woman wear pants. It's like, bro, can you stop crying? Every chapter had Matt Helm crying about something. It's not my thing. Next is Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I'm going to put it in DNF. The book itself is probably C tier. No, it's D tier. I didn't have a good time with it. I think that it's not fantasy for me. A lot of people absolutely love it. They say it gets better after this, but boy, is that a huge investment to get to the stuff that gets better. This book is like 16 and a half hours on audio, and then the books just feel like they double in size after that when I was looking at how long they are. So I don't know if I will read the rest of the series. It has an interesting premise in that it is Aragon with extra steps, but I don't know if I even want to read series like that anymore. I was putting together a list for 2026 that might be my project, and it was going to be fantasy published in 2015 or newer. And the bigger the list got, the less I wanted to do it because so many of the books on it just seemed the same or boring. Oh, I don't know where I was going with that. Hey, look, The Hot Rock by Donald E. Westlake. This is the first Dortmunder caper. It is hilarious. Westlake is the king of capers. I read another one later in the year that we'll get to, but it is so good. It's Ocean's 11, but very, very funny. The comedic timing in it is impeccable. Every character is just quite the character. It's so funny to watch Dortmunder try to herd these cats that are thieves that are attempting to steal this African jewel, because the African country next to them, after they split in half, were like, hey, that's our jewel, we want it back. we're going to pay you to steal it from them, but what we want you to do is substitute a different one that looks just like it, that's a fake, so that they don't know it's missing, and it gets more and more convoluted. They end up having to steal it multiple times because they keep getting caught or things keep going wrong. And that's basically the Dortmunder series summed up. It's, hey, we've got this thing we need to steal. Well, here's the plan. And then every part of the plan goes wrong, and it's so funny. Ex-Purgatory by Peter Clines is C tier. It is the 4th or 5th book in the Ex-Heroes series by Peter Clines. I've heard that the book after this one just doesn't end in a satisfying way, and he's never going to go back to the series because it didn't sell. But I really like the Ex-Heroes series. It is superheroes after the zombie apocalypse trying to keep what little bits of humanity are left alive. This one is strange because it's like a flashback to before the zombies, or it feels that way, but like something's going on. There's like a glitch in the Matrix, and the book follows St. George, the main character of the series, pretty much. And I think her name is like Zombie Girl or something. They're both trying to figure out what's going on. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near as good as the other books in the series. I kept stalling out on it. I think it took me like 4 tries to read it, and then I finally finished it. You know, it's good. Appaloosa, we're going to put it among all these books. It's going B tier, but for a lot of other people, it would be A or S tier. Appaloosa is a Western I would recommend to anyone that really enjoys literary fiction, but is scared of Lonesome Dove. I'm not saying it's like Lonesome Dove. I'm saying that it is a Western that skews heavily into a more traditional literary style. I think that Robert B. Parker just knocked it out of the park with this thing. Did not mean to make that stupid pun. It is about a man who comes to town with basically his best friend and deputy, and they crack down. I mean, there's a good chance you've seen the movie. Viggo Mortensen played the one of the main characters. I knew that it was going to be a good book when I got through like the first 2 chapters, and I was getting upset at some of the things that were going on, and I was like way invested. It does a really good job of exploring the bond between these 2 characters, and it's like a silent bond because of course it's Westerns, and they're hyper masculine and they don't show feelings. And I think that Robert B. Parker does a really good job of exploring that in the book. Showdown on the Hogback. I also read that during June on the Range, and yeah, it's not good. It's almost just downright bad. It's a Louis L'Amour novel or novelette or novella or something. It's very short. I remember nothing except that I finished it and thought, wow, that wasn't very good. So let's move on from there. Hey, look, we've got For the Emperor. I'm going to put that A tier because For the Emperor is one of the best ways to introduce people to the Warhammer 40k universe. It is a picaresque. The main character, Caiaphas Cain, is a sleazeball. It has a meta narrative where his memoirs are being put together by a member of the Inquisition, and so there are footnotes where he says he does one thing, and then the footnote is like, he's lying here, this actually happened at a different time, or these facts don't line up. And I really like that the main character is an unreliable narrator, and we get footnotes that call him out on his BS. And Cain is trying to avoid combat more than anything. He does not want to die for the Emperor. He'll fight for the Emperor if he has to, but he does not want to die for him. And so you see him 200 IQ his way out of these impossible situations, or weasel his way out. But then when the chips are down, he is without a doubt the most competent person on the battlefield, and he gets things done. It's hilarious. All right, Lies Weeping by Glenn Cook. This is A tier, borderline S tier. I really enjoyed this book. I got an e-arc of it, so I read it like 5 months before it came out. I had a great time. I was very worried because Court of Shadows is not very good. It does not feel like a Black Company novel. This does. I was legit worried that Glenn Cook didn't have it anymore, but boy, he does in Lies Weeping. Next up, we've got Silver Scream. I'm going to put it in D tier because there's 2 good short stories in it. It is a collection of short fiction about the movies. Everything revolves around like the silver screen in some way. The best story in it is from Carl Edward Wagner. It's also published in his short story collection called In a Lonely Place. None of the other ones are really worth it. There's a Clive Barker story in there that is, I guess, very Clive Barker. A woman is fat shamed. A cancer that someone has gets imbued with all the spirit energy of a movie screen, and it becomes a shapeshifter that absorbs people or something. I don't know. It's not very good. Wild Cards, Down and Dirty. This is going in D tier. It's not a DNF, but it's close. Most of the stories in it are forgettable. I really didn't like the main antagonist of this one. I think that it was just missing something that the other ones weren't. I don't know. It's a Wild Cards thing. It's a collection of short fiction. It's edited by George R. R. Martin. It takes place in the Wild Cards universe. I just don't really like most of it. So we're just going to skip over it and go to The Lesser Devil, which is a solid B. I like The Lesser Devil. It's like the book that takes place between Empire of Silence and Howling Dark. It follows Hadrian's brother. I think it's good. Next, we've got Curse of Chalion. It's good. I'm putting it in B tier. I probably liked Lesser Devil more and Appaloosa. I don't think it's a bad book. A lot of people adore it. It has won a lot of awards. It does everything Lois McMaster Bujold does well. But after all the Penric and Desdemona stuff, I started figuring out that the World of the Five Gods is probably not for me. I DNF Paladin of Souls just because I didn't care about the story it was telling. The writing is still superb, but it's not a story I wanted to read. Next is Half an Inch of Water by Percival Everett. I'm going to put that in A tier. I decided to not like other girls and read something that wasn't James or The Trees by Percival Everett, and I thought it was appropriate because I read it in like July and I wanted some more June on the Range, or I used that as an excuse. This is his collection of Western-inspired short fiction. It's all really good. It all takes place in like a more modern setting. It's not taking place back in like the Western times, but they're all written in the same style as Western short fiction, and I really like it. I mean, it's pretty obvious that he's a fantastic writer by just this. I will say I did DNF Suitor, so that's not on the list because I didn't finish the book. I didn't like that book at all. The book is weird, so maybe Percival Everett is for me. So far, there's a 50% success rate. Some of All Men by David Farland. It's going to go in the C tier, not so much because of the quality of the book, but because that fantasy series is not for me. The book is pretty good. A lot of people I know have read it and enjoyed it. I think that he does an amazing job with magic systems, but I'm so tired of Lords and Ladies that it was just eating away at me while I was reading it. But other than that, it was pretty good. I think it has one heck of an ending. The things he does with the magic system he's created is incredible, but it's just not for me. I figured that out when I DNF'd the second book. For anyone that doesn't know, the magic system works with endowments. People can give away an endowment of speed or strength or sight, or hearing, stuff like that. You lose that by giving it to someone else, but as long as you are alive, that person now has an amplified version of that sense, which is super cool. And it is almost sickening the way it works, because boy, can you exploit people for abilities. I mean, what better way to maintain power than by subjugating people and leaving them so desperate they want to give you things that make them human just so they don't die in poverty? Pretty messed up, which is one of the things that makes it good, but also I just don't think that it's for me. Beast in the Shadows by Edo Gawarampo. A tier, borderline S tier. I think it's better than most of the stuff on this A tier, but also it took me multiple tries to get into it. It is the foundation of like modern crime fiction in Japan. Holy crap. He is on the same level as Raymond Chandler when it comes to like crime noir. This book is about a detective novelist in Japan, and he is investigating another novelist that is like one of his rivals, because he might have killed someone, and he falls for this woman and is trying to solve this mystery, and the twists have twists. Like 3/4 of the way through the book, I'm thinking, I know exactly what's going to happen here. And I was wrong in the best way possible. Penric and the Bandit is C tier. It's not as forgettable as Knot of Shadows, but it is pretty forgettable. It is basically Penric gaslights a bandit into thinking that he's not a sorcerer or whatever, just to see what he's doing, because the guy is like real sketchy, and Penric immediately picks up on the fact that the guy's trying to work one over on him or something. And so in his internal dialogue with Desdemona, he's like, let's see what happens with this. We'll just go with the flow and kind of see where this goes. And it's like an interesting redemption story. The bandit is a pretty lovable character toward the end. I mean, even at the beginning, he's pretty likable. So it's not bad, but it's also one of the weaker ones in the series. Next, we got Brightness Falls from the Air by James Tiptree Jr. This book is very good. I don't think it's as good as the stuff above it, which is why it's in B tier, but it's a book I think a lot of people should check out. So James Tiptree Jr. is a pen name for Alice Bradley Sheldon, and the best way to describe this book is it feels like vintage science fiction from the 50s or 60s, but with all of the negative connotations that comes with removed, and you've blended in this like 80s and early 90s like good stuff. The thing that it reminds me of the most is Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. They share like nothing in common other than kind of this little below the surface like tone that you feel throughout the story. It's really good. I think that she is an excellent writer. I've read a lot of her short fiction now. Anyone that is into science fiction and has not read James Tiptree Jr. really needs to give the books a try. I'm going to make a list of like recommended short fiction from her eventually, but you could start with Brightness Falls from the Air. That's what I started with, and it worked really well. It's a pretty good book. Star Trek Log 1. It's going to go in DNF tier because it's fine. There's 2 of the stories in it that I think are really good, and the rest are forgettable or skippable. I think I skimmed one because I just kept thinking, I don't care. It has one of the more important Star Trek animated series episodes in it. It's about Spock traveling back in time and being his own uncle or something. He just shows up and helps young Spock through the little Vulcan trial that would have killed him if old Spock hadn't been there to help him. It's really weird. Time travel stuff is always goofy, but overall it's perfectly readable, especially for hardcore Star Trek nerds, but I'm not that yet, so it was just okay. Like, I don't regret reading it, but it's weaker than everything else above it, as I keep saying, and I'll try not to for the rest of this. Hey, look, Homeland by R.A. Salvatore. I'm going to put it in A tier. It could be S tier. It is so pulpy, it hurts in the best way possible. I think that R.A. Salvatore was really channeling his inner Robert E. Howard for a lot of this, and it's so good. It is the Drizzt Do'Urden origin story, and it is so fun. I've never read any other Drizzt stuff. I decided to start in chronological order or whatever. I really liked it. I want to read more of them. It's just fun. Now, this is going to be a bit of a surprise, but Digger, which I read for Garbogast, Fool's Flight, out of these last 3 is going to go in the B tier, but it's very good. It is way better than it should be. Warren Murphy was hooking when he wrote the Digger series. I don't know what it is about them. They are so addicting. It is about a guy who works for a life insurance company, and what he does is he investigates life insurance fraud. He wants to make sure that this person died the way it's claimed and that no one's trying anything sketchy to make some money. Fool's Flight is very interesting because everyone on a plane that crashed all had life insurance policies through his company, and they all got them right before the plane took off. It was one of those get yourself some traveler's life insurance at the airport. You know, it lasts your whole trip, and it's like this whole better safe than sorry. And the insurance company's like, holy crap, this is going to be like $2 million. This is $2 million in like 1983 or something. So it's a lot of money. And so Digger goes down to investigate why all of these policies were signed off to this evangelical preacher in Florida. It's a good mystery. That's the thing that shocked me about the first one in the series. I just felt tricked because the book starts out so bad and Digger is unlikable. And by the end of the first book, I thought, wow, this is one of the best mysteries I've ever read. And Fool's Flight, Digger's a little more likable, and the mystery is just as entertaining. Speaking of entertaining mysteries, In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. This also goes in A tier. It is so good. Carlos and Yolanda at StoryTube have a video about it. This is very on the nose crime noir and closely related to the Jim Thompson novel I read a few weeks after reading In a Lonely Place. You're following Dick Steele. Yes, that is his name. And he is a sociopath. He is a bum. He's living off his cheap uncle, and he's spending his time in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is a wonderful character in the book. And he's supposed to be writing a novel, becoming a novelist. Well, he's lying to his uncle about it. The dude is just super sketchy, and he is a predator who seeks out women. And it's just really interesting to follow the POV of this delusional serial killer, maybe, is very good. I think that Dorothy B. Hughes did a really good job of kind of being critical of the style of novels that were being written at the time, and it's good. You know what's not good? The Iron Dream by Norman Spinrad. Now, I got to give Norman Spinrad credit because it's a work of genius to be able to make this metafiction where Hitler writes a really crappy science fiction book that is essentially the science fiction novelization of his rantings and Mein Kampf, and it's so weird. The intro and the outro are the best parts of the book because they kind of give context, but what it is in this alternate history, Hitler was never the leader of Germany. He left after the beer hall putsch and some time in jail, and he went to America, and he was a painter for the pulps until he was proficient enough in English to become an author. And he wrote this hyper-masculine book about genetic purity. And by hyper-masculine, I mean there are no women in this book. This is a sausage fest. And the main character is the perfect man. He's tall and blonde and blue-eyed and genetically pure, unlike most of these rejects. And he is trying to save his country from the genetically impure people that are trying to destroy it. And his authority is symbolized in this fist, this like forearm and fist that's like a, I don't know, a scepter. It's a penis. This is a very phallic book. It is idiotic. If you read the beginning and then read the story until you get bored and don't care anymore, and then read the outro, you have gotten enough to understand that Norman Spinrad was cooking in like the worst way possible. I'd recommend it to anyone that wants to read weird vintage science fiction, but beyond that, I don't recommend it to anyone. I'd recommend it over A Spectre is Haunting Texas, but I don't know what that's saying about it. Hey look, Digger, Dead Letter. This is going in S tier. I read this in 2 nights before bed. I am a slow reader, eyes on paper. I could not put it down. It's the shortest book in the series. It takes place in Boston, and it is about a chain letter with a list of people on it, and those people start getting killed. And Digger is in Boston to check up on his boss's daughter because she's like the perfect girl. She does everything her dad tells her. She never gets in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Well, Digger shows up, and that's not really true. But she's still a good kid, and this chain letter is affecting her personally, and she's on the list. And so he's trying to figure out who this killer is before something happens to her. I really enjoyed the book. I think that it's the best one in the series, and I think it is a good sign of what we're hopefully going to get in the Trace series, which is literally Digger with a different name because the publisher wouldn't give Warren Murphy the rights to Digger, so he just filed off the serial numbers and just kept writing them. And I'm looking forward to reading those this year. This next one is technically a trilogy, but I kind of used it to remove 2 books from this obnoxious list because it's like 115 of them. And that's Westmark by Lloyd Alexander. It's going to go in the B tier. It's very good, and it is the YA version of the French Revolution. Westmark is a mix of France and Germany during the times of the French Revolution, and you are following this young man who is a apprentice at a print shop, and it gets burned to the ground, and his master gets killed because they were printing political stuff that was illegal, and this authoritarian regime sucks. Basically the Jafar of this kingdom has taken over the government because the king and queen are distraught. They're heartbroken. Their daughter's been missing for like 8 years now, something like that. So the main character is on the run, and he gets in with this group of like scammers. They run all these different cons to make money in town to town. Long story short, they end up finding the missing daughter in a very interesting way, and the next book is about the main character kind of getting his footing in this new political environment, and there's still this undercurrent of rebellion, and yeah, it ends up becoming the French Revolution. It's very good for YA and even for adults reading it. If you want something that goes by very quick, I highly suggest Westmark. It gives you a good time, and you can see Lloyd Alexander's writing, and because this is YA but not like modern YA, the plot flies by. He cuts all the fat off of what would normally be like, I don't know, 3 700-page books. It's like 3 200-page books. He's cooking. I read it again because I read them when I was about 11, and they are what made me fall in love with fantasy. So I wanted to see if they held up, and I really think they did. The Killer Inside Me, I'm going to put next to In a Lonely Place in the A tier. It could be in the S tier or not. It just depends. I think my wife didn't really enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I read it with Carlos at StoryTube. You're following a sociopath as he manipulates people and kind of puts himself in a position to kill women. And he happens to be a deputy in Texas. Jim Thompson is one heck of a writer. He was a big influence on the short story I wrote for Weird Frequencies. I wanted like a borderline sociopathic character in that story, and I channeled a lot of Jim Thompson in that. Do with that what you will. If you like sociopaths or reading about them a la Dexter but not a good guy, I think you'd like it. Jim Thompson is definitely an author that anyone reading crime fiction needs to read. I try not to say you need to read someone, but between The Killer Inside Me and Pop 1280, pick one of those, put it in your TBR if you're trying to become well-versed in the history of the crime genre. Digger 4, Lucifer's Weekend. That's going to go on the same level as Fool's Flight. I like both of them equally. Lucifer's Weekend takes place in Pennsylvania in this company town, and it's just kind of depressing, but the mystery is really good. I think that Warren Murphy has a lot to say, but because he's writing these pulpy books, people just kind of ignore what he's saying. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about that. It's a good one. Digger becomes more likable throughout the series, or maybe I just began to tolerate him being a sleazeball. I don't know. All right, we got Trumps of Doom. Trumps of Doom is going to go B tier because it's nowhere near near as good as the first 5 Amber novels by Roger Zelazny, but it's very good and it's better than all of the other Amber novels in the second half. We're going to rapid fire through the rest of them because if you like soap operas and the Amber series, you will like the second half of the Amber series. If soap operas and plot twists that plot twist bother you, you're not going to have a good time. These are so forgettable. They're all going to go in D, even though I think for other people who really enjoy Amber, they might not be that low. I think Trumps of Doom is good, and I think the rest are just okay. Like, they're worth reading if you want more of the Amber world from the first books, and you don't mind them being a little shallow. Not even shallow, because I think they have the same kind of depth, and you can see what Zelazny was going for, but they're just not as good. I wouldn't say they're as bad as the haters of the second half say, but they're also much weaker than all these other things. Howling Dark by Christopher Ruocchio. This is an A tier. It didn't blow me away the way I thought it would, but it was still very good. Holy crap, is Hadrian Marlowe melodramatic. Boy loves his drama. But beyond that, it's good. I kind of enjoyed Empire of Silence more, but it's hard to say why. I think it was a much slower burn than Howling Dark, but I think Howling Dark had a lot slower moments throughout it. Like, the peak is way higher in Howling Dark, but also it builds up to this thing that people are like, it's crazy, it blew my mind, I can't believe he did that. And when he did it, I'm just like, okay, I don't think this is crazy as other people have led me to believe, but it's still very good. Hey, look, not very good. Solar Pawns in regards to Sherlock Holmes by August Derleth. This is August Derleth's pastiche of Sherlock Holmes. He's somehow in the same universe as Sherlock Holmes, but about 20 years later. It's cool to see, like, post World War I mysteries that are Sherlock Holmes mysteries, but also they're kind of boring. They get tied up in weird ways. And unlike Sherlock Holmes, where there's like a flow to the mystery being solved, the Solar Pawns ones are like, oh, look, there's all the clues. This is what happened. Bye. And you're just left thinking, where's the rest? The Adventure of the Demonic Ox by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is another forgettable one. I like that it's later in Penrick's life and there's some very touching moments in it, but overall it's not as impactful as the others in the series. Maybe I could bump it up to B. Yeah, I'll bump it up to B. It's not nearly as forgettable as Knot of Shadows and Penrick and the Bandit. And it does have some very beautiful moments. All right, this is the Vorkosigan binge. This is going to get rapid fired and it's going to fill up most of the S and A tier. So let's get right to it. I'm going to be quick. Warrior's Apprentice, S tier, because it's happening after Bari. It's your first time with Miles, and boy, is it good. I was laughing. I was crying. I felt all of the feels in that book because that's what Bujold does to you. She has this beautiful writing that makes you care. The Vor game, A tier. I did enjoy it. It's like a direct sequel to The Warrior's Apprentice. This is when I realized that Bujold is the master of having her readers get got, because I thought The Warrior's Apprentice was going to go one way and it did not, and the Vor game was the exact same. Cetaganda, A tier. I really like this. My favorite scene is when Miles is struck dumb by a Cetagandan baddie. I will never stop talking about that. That's literally what's on the cover, and it is so funny. It's very well written. Ethan of Athos is the He-Man Woman Haters Club. It is good. I think that a lot of people would agree that it's weaker than the other ones. It's still like a 5-star. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. There is one Vorkosigan book that is not 5 stars. Now, some of these 5 stars are lower than 4 stars of other books, but that's just, I don't know, a problem you got to deal with, because not all 5 stars are the same. Borders of Infinity can go next to Ethan of Athos. I like it. It is a bind up of short fiction, and all of the stories are very good. One of them is incredible, so maybe it should be A tier, but I gotta save some space in the S and A tier for things like Brothers in Arms, S tier. This thing will change your life if you are a Vorkosigan enjoyer. Let's shrink these down so they're even harder to see. I apologize. A Mirror Dance, oh, S tier, because this whole Brother in Arms, Mirror Dance, it changes everything in the series. Memory is changes in Dresden Files, but in a different way. Memory might be my favorite book in the series because of how raw and emotional it is. It broke my heart to read it. I have never cared so much about what is happening to a character until I read Memory. I couldn't get over it. Komar is a C tier. It's better than the other Vorkosigan books in the B tier, but I said C tier. I don't know why, but it's better than the B tier Vorkosigan books, but it's not as good as the rest of these. Civil Campaign is a beautiful. Do you like Regency era romance? Boy, do I have a science fiction book for you. The best thing about Bujold is she takes these styles of storytelling from other genres and makes it her own in the Vorkosigan universe. And every time she does it, she excels at it. She is probably the best living science fiction writer. Yes, that's a bold statement. Winterfell Gifts. This thing is beautiful. This is a novella. It's so good. It is a treat, is the best way to put it. You are there for a wedding that I will not elaborate on. And boy, is it cool, because it isn't about the wedding at all. It's about all these side characters, and it has one of the most beautiful stories in all of the Vorkosigan saga. I keep saying that, but that's just because they're all that good. This is going to be a hot take among Vorkosigan lovers. Falling Free is going in A tier. Yes, it's going above Ethan of Athos, Borders of Infinity, and Komar. And the reason why is Falling Free is a prequel to the whole Vorkosigan universe. It takes place very early on in the expansion of humanity out past Beta Colony and stuff like that. And it is a prequel to Diplomatic Immunity because of the people in it. There are these genetically modified humans that have hands and arms for legs. Like their anatomy has been shifted. They are built to survive in 0G, and this happened before there was artificial gravity. And so these people were created by this company, and they are property of that company. And that is what this story is about. It is about a normal human showing up and him seeing the dehumanizing condition of the space station that these people are on, and the fact that the company he works for views them as property. And it is a story about trying to free them, and it is a story about those people trying to free themselves. It's so different than everything else in the series. Ethan of Athos is probably close to it when it comes to just being different, but that's mostly because it's not following a Vorkosigan. Anyways, it has a special place in my heart. I really like it because it feels so different. I say feels so different, but it's different, but it rhymes, because this is Bujold's writing we're talking about that is delightful, as everyone says, and I just had a really good time with it, and it works as a really good break between all the Vorkosigan stuff. And then you get Diplomatic Immunity, which I'm going to put on B tier. I think it's better than Komar and Borders of Infinity, and kind of tied with Ethan of Athos. It's a good one, but it feels just a little less than stuff like Cetaganda and the Vor game. It's hard to have anything match Brother in Arms, Mirror Dancer Memory. Now, my boy is Ivan, Miles Vorkosigan's cousin. So when I started Captain Vorpatrol's Alliance, I knew that it was going to go down as one of my favorite books in the entire series, because what is there not to like about Ivan? Ivan is one of the best characters in the series, and the fact that he finally got his own book is just chef's kiss. I mean, everything that is great about Ivan in this entire series and then crammed into a single novel, it's incredible. We got our first stinker in the Vorkosigan series. That is The Flowers of Vashnoi. It is just a retelling of, I think it's called Mountains of Madness or something. It's in Borders of Infinity. It's one of the short stories in that collection. I think that this is just it with extra steps from a different POV. I see what she was trying to do with it. I still appreciate it, but actually, no, I got to move it up to C. It's going to be C, because it is as good as Penric and the Bandit and Not of Shadows, but no, I think it's better than pretty much everything else in C. But I don't want to clog up B any more than I already have. Cryoburn is going in A tier. Maybe this is a little recency bias, but I just like Cryoburn. It's very fun. Cryoburn is about a planet where when you die, you are frozen, and eventually you'll get revived. And like this entire economy is built on freezing people to bring back later. And it's a bit of a pyramid scheme, and it is starting to fall apart when Miles gets there, and Miles being Miles just pulls at the threads, and boy, do things fall apart fast. Now, Gentleman Joel and the Red Queen, which is the last thing published in the Vorkosigan series, as far as I know, is beautiful. It is just like The Lonely Silver Rain, and it is an ending because it is a new beginning, and you get to come full circle. It takes place on the same planet that Shards of Honor does, and you're following Cordelia. You know, Cordelia is the goat of the series. I mean, Errol is the goat, and then, you know, when two goats make a baby, they're also the goat. Miles is just awesome. All right, holy crap. I'm burning my throat out. We're almost done. I read 17 Vorkosigan novels in a single month. It fried my brain. I've talked about it before, so I needed something else. And one of the something else's is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Nouvel. It is written in the same way as World War Z by Max Brooks. It is a collection of interviews and articles and audio recordings of people talking. There's very little or no. It's all dialogue, basically, or dialogue-like. It's very interesting. It is about humanity discovering an ancient giant robot that was probably built by aliens, and it is here for a purpose, and that purpose is probably to defend humanity. I think everyone should give it a try. I think it works really well on audio, the same way I thought World War Z did. Beyond that, not much else to say. Anthony Ryan, Bloodsong. That's going to be in C tier. It's a perfectly competent epic fantasy book. There are a lot of aspects of it I really like. The whole warrior monk thing is super cool, and I think that the main character is interesting, but there's a lot of borderline Deus Ex Machina stuff in there, and I just am not a fan of the plot being driven forward by the magic says so. It just doesn't work for me. Maybe I'll try the rest of the series. I'm not sure. I do own all three of them in first edition, first printing hardcovers, so I kind of feel a little invested, but the sunk cost fallacy don't work on me. Next we've got, I'm just going to be real with y'all, I think about half of what's coming up is S tier. Let's find out. Don Winslow, City on Fire. It is the Iliad, but takes place in the 1980s and follows an Irish crime family and a Italian crime family in Providence, Rhode Island, as they destroy one another over a beautiful woman. Don Winslow's writing is perfect. He pares his sentences down to the bone, and he tells a story in an efficient way that is unlike just about anyone else in any genre, let alone the crime genre. I need to read a few more of his books, but I'm pretty sure that he is already in the top 3 of favorite crime fiction writers of all time. These next 2 are technically novellas, but hey, what's a little stat padding among friends? Some of these, most of the Penrick and Desdemona stuff are novellas, but these were published on their own. So, I can do what I want and put them on this list. I wanted to try out KJ Parker. I did not want to try out a big novel. I wanted to dip my toes into his writing. I have 2 collections of short fiction that I guess are rare, so that's cool. One of them signed, or both are signed. I can't remember. I read The Devil You Know. The Devil You Know is A tier. It is a very good novella. It is about a philosopher who is very smart, and he's on his deathbed, basically, and he signs a deal with the devil, like a contract, and he is using that contract to try and trick the devil and wiggle out of the contract by helping humanity, saving humanity, who knows? It's very good. It takes a minute to get into it because of the way it is written, but once you figure out the, literary dialect that KJ Parker is using, then it works very well. The Last Witness, also by KJ Parker, is B tier. It's good. It's nowhere near as good as The Devil You Know, but it's still very interesting. It is about a man who can stare at the side of someone's head, and if he concentrates hard enough, their head essentially opens and he enters it, and he can pluck memories out, take them, and those memories are gone in that person's mind, and he gets paid to do that, and he does it a lot. But the thing is when he takes those memories, they're his forever, and most of them aren't good ones. It's a very good story. Hey, look, Bank Shot, Donald E. Westlake. That's S tier. It's just as good as the Hot Rock, if not better. Dortmunder is given a job, and that job is to steal a bank. Not steal from a bank, to steal the entire bank. This bank is in a mobile home parked in front of where the old bank was, and the old bank is being torn down and rebuilt. The entire story is them trying to figure out how to steal that mobile home while it's got a bunch of cash in it. It's great. It's like a Ocean's 11 type cast of characters, but it's a hilarious caper. I loved it. I want to just binge all the Dortmunders, but also I like to save them and savor them. It's been a while since I talked about John D. MacDonald on this list, so let's talk about Murder for the Bride and how it is C tier. It is worse than The Brass Cupcake. Actually, it's going to go D tier. I'm glad I read it because I want to read all of his books. It is the weakest thing he has written that I have read so far. It takes place in New Orleans. It follows a engineer who works for like oil and gas in Mexico and South America, and he rushes back to New Orleans because he got a weird letter from this lady friend of his, and she said, hey, there's something going on with your wife. You need to get back here quick. He gets back and she's already dead. And now he is trying to figure out who murdered her and get revenge for her. And it starts off as this vengeance thing and becomes this weird Red Scare communist thing. And this is when I realized that John D. MacDonald can't end a book very well most of the time. The ending in this is the most generic thing. I mean, ChatGPT would come up with a better ending if I asked it to give me a trope heavy pulp crime ending. So I'll just leave that at that. Niftaline, this is one of those 4 stars that's better than a lot of 5 stars. It's going in S tier because it is fascinating how he wrote this. It is a framed narrative like Book of the New Sun, and the first story in it is Dark Souls. It is 2 guys who have a beautiful dead woman crawl up out of the ground and give them a mission to go to the underworld to steal something, and then this is their journey through the underworld because they get trapped there. They got. It's very good. When I say it's a framed narrative, there is a editor putting all of these together, and it was a friend of Niftaline's, and he talks about how Nift is dead now, even though he's faked his death before, but they're pretty sure he's dead this time. And this is a collection of his adventures through his life. Some were written down by other people, a couple were written down by Nift, and this editor is putting them together and rewriting them in a way that makes a cohesive story. And that's just fascinating. And even at the beginning of each one, the editor's like, Nift is a little arrogant in this. He did not talk like that in real life, but because the person who wrote this Journey Down wrote it this way, I'm going to keep it. And I think stuff like that is just so cool. It sucks that Niftaline is functionally out of print. The books cost a fortune, even the paperbacks. There used to be ebooks, there used to be audiobooks. For some reason, they're no longer available. I'm guessing that whoever was publishing them lost their right. I don't know why you can't get a hold of them. I'm just salty about it because I had to jump through way too many hoops to even read the dang book. And I want to recommend it to everyone, but I'm not going to tell you to go buy a mass market paperback for $100 that is going to fall apart while you're reading it. Before I get any more fired up, let's talk about Lazarus. Lazarus is A tier. This is by, his last name is Andreev. I can't read the first part because holy crap, this is tiny. Let's see. Leonid Andreev. So Leonid Andreev is like the Poe of Russian literature, from what I have been told. It's good. It is about Lazarus, the dude in the Bible who comes back to life. But when you come back from the other side, things are never the same, and that's what this is about. I think it's very well written. It would probably be S tier for most other people, but the premise of the fear of death doesn't work as well for me because I just don't think about it. Because if I'm dead, and I have no control over it. The best I can do is avoid things that would kill me. So I can't really stress about a time when I no longer exist. The Good Earth by Pearl S. Buck. A tier. I read this because I wanted to pad my stats for both Pulitzer Prize winners and Nobel Prize winners. Pearl S. Buck wrote this as a almost in a traditional Chinese storytelling style. If you've read The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, then you know the kind of semi-detached narrative style that this book has. But this is about China in, I think, the early 1900s, and you're following this very poor villager as he works his butt off to give himself and eventually his wife and children a better life in spite of things falling apart during a famine and during a flood. And it's very good. I knew that it was going to mean a lot to me because I was instantly attached to the characters from the very beginning. And I think that this book does a really good job of showing how strong women can be even in a society where they are treated as property. I think that the female characters in this book are very good. It's one of those, they make the best of a bad situation and they take as much control of their lives as they can in what's going on in it. And none of them are main characters in the book. It's following essentially one guy the whole time, but still, like, they're very strong characters in the book. And beyond that, I don't really have much else to say. I talked about it in a wrap up not too long ago. So if you want a little more, you can go back and watch that. Hey, look, Don Winslow, still S tier, City of Dreams, the sequel to City on Fire. This is the Aeneid, or is it the Odyssey? I don't know, but the trilogy is basically the Iliad, the Aeneid, and the Odyssey. This is very good. It's better than the first book. You have all of the emotional weight that you develop from following the characters in the first book, and then they get thrown into California in the second book, and it is about Danny Ryan trying to go straight. No more crime, no more bad stuff. And he wants to have a good life for him and his son. It's excellent. Now, I decided to, at the end of the year, binge Larry Correa's Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. I reread Son of the Black Sword, but that's not on the list because this doesn't have rereads. And then I read House of Assassins, which is S tier. It's very good. It's a great sequel. Kind of has a bit of a dip in the middle, and then it spikes up to the top of the graph and just flies right off of it and keeps going. All gas, no brakes. Holy crap, the ending is so freaking cool. And that's what I wanted in a fantasy series. I want it to be cool. I want there to be action and awesome characters and an interesting premise. And then, on top of that, I get some of the best world building I've ever read in a fantasy series. And then, then I got to read City in Ruins, which is the final book in the Danny Ryan trilogy. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I don't really need to elaborate. If you're reading crime fiction and you're not reading Don Winslow, then you're doing it wrong. You can start with the Danny Ryan trilogy, even though I think it's the last thing Winslow wrote before he retired. Okay, let's move on. I'm just going to get testimony and mute things out of the way. That is D tier. No, we'll give it a C. It's not as bad as Masquerade and Lodi. It's very close though. It's the second weakest Penric and Desdemona novella. It takes place after Penric's Fox, so if you're reading them in the internal chronological order, it would be like the fourth one you read. I didn't like that it was jumping back. I need more older Penric. I need Penric when he's like 55 or 60. Man, that would just make my heart sink. I barely remember what it was about. I know a snake bit someone on the butt and they died, and that's it. All right, let's get into the rest of the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. Destroyer of Worlds, I'm going to put in B. It's the weakest in the series. I think that it's just too slow, and I just struggled with it. But then we get Tower of Silence, which is A tier, very good. And then we get Graveyard of Demons and Heart of the Mountain. So Graveyard of Demons starts a little slow and then just keeps ramping up and ramping up. And Graveyard of Demons and Heart of the Mountain were supposed to be one book, and they had to get split. So the ending for Graveyard of Demons is an ending, but it's not like an ending, like with a capital E. And then Heart of the Mountain starts, and Heart of the Mountain starts at full speed and never slows down. Heart of the Mountain has maybe the best like final battle. I don't know though, because Larry Correia did an amazing job in the Grimoire series. The last battle in that book series is probably the best last battle I've ever read, and Heart of the Mountain comes close. It's just a wonderful series. Like I said when I was talking about it in my wrap up, it's the type of fantasy I wish I could write. If I took writing seriously, that would be like my goal to reach, is writing something as awesome as the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior. It's heavily influenced by Indian folklore, religions, and culture, and it's just so good. And that's it. My throat is hurting. I don't know if you can tell. I'm getting a little raspy in spite of the breaks and beverages. And looking through this, there is a lot of S and A tier, and even some of the B tier stuff, they're 5 stars. If you're looking at like my Goodreads and stuff, this was the best year of reading I've ever had, which is saying something because I thought last year was the best year of reading I've ever had. I found 2 of my favorite science fiction series of all time in Dungeon Crawler Carl and the Vorkosigan Saga, on top of finishing one of my favorite crime series of all time, which is the Travis McGee series by John D. MacDonald. Then I found an epic fantasy series in Saga of the Forgotten Warrior that was just phenomenal. It does not get better than this. And if you have a problem with me putting so many things in S and A tier, the books are just that good. And if you're not putting a bunch of stuff in S and A tier, maybe it's a skill issue. Maybe you should enjoy things more or pick better books. And that's why I have a channel, because I want to help you pick better books. So look at this tier list. If you've got a little smattering in your favorite books in my S and A tier, then check out the other stuff that I've got up there. That's why this channel exists. I want to talk to all of you about great books, and I want to help other people find things like I have on this list. I want everyone to enjoy books as much as I do, if not more. That's it. Let me know in the comments what you think of this tier list. Where would you put some of this stuff? I know I have some lukewarm to almost hot takes on here. Thanks for watching, and with that, I'll see you next time.